Hey everyone, welcome back. So today's explainer is going to be a bit different. We're stepping back, zooming way out from the daily noise of your newsfeed, and looking at the really big picture of our global digital infrastructure. Think about it. Every single day, we're bombarded with isolated headlines about rockets, smartphones, crypto, and hackers. But what happens when you actually connect those dots? Well, today, we're going to do exactly that. Let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We're looking at the new infrastructure, following the money, the AI cybercrime epidemic, the governance dilemma, security versus freedom, and wrapping up with the currency of trust. We're going to see how 6 seemingly disconnected stories from the past 24 hours, from space launches to cell carrier contracts, actually map out a massive, interconnected shift in how our entire world operates. Let's get started. All right, part 1, the new infrastructure, building at scale. You know, we always hear about commercial spaceflight like it's this sci-fi aspiration. But guys, we are literally at an industrial scale right now. Just look at this number, 72. That is how many times SpaceX has launched a Falcon 9 rocket in 2026 alone. To put that into perspective, legacy aerospace companies, they're thrilled to hit maybe 10 or 15 launches in a whole year. SpaceX is on track to blow past 140 launches this year. That means they are firing a rocket into orbit basically every 2.5 days. Launching into space is not a rare event anymore. It's practically a daily commute. And get this, the specific hardware that just flew, Booster B-1063, just finished its 33rd successful flight, landing flawlessly out in the Pacific on the drone ship. That marks SpaceX's 627th total booster landing. But here's why this actually matters, the economics. When you take a $50 million piece of hardware and fly it over 30 times, your cost per launch plummets from, say, $100 million down to just a fraction of that. It is absolutely staggering efficiency. And that ruthless operational cost cutting, that's exactly what is paying for the massive global rollout of Starlink satellite internet. Moving on to section 2, following the money, the hidden economics. Because we aren't just building new physical infrastructure up in space, our financial infrastructure right here on Earth is morphing constantly too. Let's look at a piece of everyday consumer economics. I gotta ask, is the iPhone 17 really free? T-Mobile has been aggressively blanketing the world with this totally free iPhone promo if you switch carriers. It's classic carrier war stuff, right? But I want to walk you through the actual math on this, because the devil's always in the details. Let's run the numbers. To get that completely free phone, you have to upgrade to their premium Experience Beyond plan. That's $100 a month. If you're currently paying, let's say, $70, well, that's an extra $30 out of pocket every single month. Multiply that by the required 24-month commitment, and you are shelling out an extra $720 in higher plan costs. Now sure, a base iPhone 17 retails for $899, so technically you're saving about $179, which is nice. But fundamentally, you are subsidizing that device through a permanently more expensive service contract. It's a genius customer acquisition strategy, but it really requires you to look past the headline and follow the money. Okay, let's zoom out from your cell phone bill to macro finance. Over the weekend, some massive news dropped about a US-Iran peace roadmap. Normally, when global headlines like that hit, traditional equities react, and Bitcoin, which everyone used to treat as this wild geopolitical safe haven, would see massive volatility. But look at what actually happened here. Bitcoin basically flatlined right near $64,000. It completely ignored the geopolitical shockwaves. Why? Because the underlying mechanics of crypto have fundamentally changed. This institutional maturation wasn't an overnight thing. Think back to 2022 when Ethereum pulled off its proof-of-stake upgrade. Then, jump to early 2024 with the spot Bitcoin ETF approvals. Fast forward to today, and we are looking at over $60 billion in steady institutional money flowing in. Bitcoin's flatline is proof that it's no longer just a volatile hedge against the nightly news. It is now reacting to systematic institutional capital flows and Federal Reserve rate speculation. Basically, it has grown up into a foundational piece of our global financial infrastructure. Which brings us to section 3. The AI cybercrime epidemic, the escalating arms race. We've talked a lot about the bright side of our expanding digital world, but there is a very real dark side. Check out these frankly terrifying numbers from Interpol's newest cyber threat assessment report for the Asia-Pacific region. In just 2 years, the average ransom demand over there has more than doubled, rocketing from $500,000 in 2023 to $1.2 million in 2025. This isn't just a couple of rogue hackers messing around anymore. This is a massive, highly lucrative financial escalation directly targeting critical infrastructure, healthcare systems, and government agencies. Neil Jetton, the director of cybercrime at Interpol, perfectly sums up the root cause here. He points to rapid digitalization, cross-border networks, and crucially, the democratization of AI tools. Artificial intelligence has entirely obliterated the barrier to entry for cybercrime. Attackers don't need a team of fluent speakers anymore. They just use AI language models to spit out perfectly localized, flawlessly grammatical phishing emails and incredibly convincing deepfakes. And they do it at an absolute industrial scale. And this perfect storm has given rise to something called ransomware as a service, or RAS. Think of this like a dark web franchise business model for criminals. The top-tier masterminds build these incredibly sophisticated hacking tools, and then they literally just rent them out to affiliates who have zero technical skills. The masterminds provide the tech support, they handle the complicated cryptocurrency ransom logistics, and they just take a cut of the profits. This fully industrialized model is exactly why cybercrime is now considered a primary national security threat. Section 4. The Governance Dilemma: Funding Decentralization. As these massive digital platforms grow, they slam right into a fundamental philosophical conflict. Who actually pays for and governs this shared infrastructure? Let's look at a fascinating debate happening right now over in the Ethereum ecosystem. There's a new proposal called Validator Redirected Revenue. Here's how it works. Validators could vote to redirect up to 10% of their staking rewards to fund public goods in the ecosystem. But step 2 is the real kicker. If a 51% majority agrees, that redirect rate becomes completely mandatory for all 1 million active validators. So it's this semi-voluntary system that could potentially channel $120 million annually straight into infrastructure projects. What is super fascinating here is how perfectly this mirrors traditional government debates about taxes. On the pro side, you get sustainable infrastructure funding, which means less begging venture capitalists for money, and it aligns everyone's incentives toward a healthy network. But on the con side, critics argue this just acts as a mandatory tax without any clear representation. I mean, who decides where that money goes? There's a huge risk of political capture, and it might unfairly disadvantage the smaller independent validators. It really proves that as decentralized blockchains mature, they run into the exact same institutional challenges that traditional governments have faced for centuries. Section 5. Security versus freedom. Who decides? Let's actually connect that blockchain governance debate to a massive consumer tech platform that is making a remarkably similar philosophical choice. Google is getting ready to lock down its advanced protection mode on Android, and it is causing immense tension. Now, for high-risk users like journalists or activists, this is great. They absolutely need strict defense-in-depth security to stop bad actors from tricking them into enabling USB debugging exploits. But on the flip side, power users and developers rely heavily on that system flexibility. They deeply value Android's open platform philosophy. So the question is, do platforms make paternalistic decisions to protect vulnerable users from themselves, or do they preserve maximum freedom and trust users to manage their own risk? And finally, Section 6, the currency of trust, the ultimate asset. We have looked at some wildly different stories today, but if you really zoom out, they are all just chapters of the exact same book. Trust is the fundamental currency of the digital age. Think about it. You have to trust that a reused SpaceX rocket won't explode. You have to trust a decentralized Ethereum network to fairly allocate resources without a central boss. You've got to trust that a carrier contract isn't trapping you in a bad deal. And you absolutely have to trust that an email link isn't an AI-generated deepfake ready to deploy ransomware on your entire network. Technology is incredible at building infrastructure, but it literally cannot replace the trust required to use it. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought for today's explainer. As space infrastructure, AI security threats, and digital governance all violently collide, who are you willing to trust with your digital future? Take a moment to really think about your role in this massive technological shift. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.